The movie begins by showing a man named Kim Min-kyu who has just arrived at a building. Before getting out of his car, he prepared a medicine he carried in his bag. After that, Min-kyu went to see 3 doctors who were interviewing him. Min-kyu apparently wanted to apply for a suspension not to participate in military service, but the team of doctors doubted his reasons when they read his biography, which stated that he had an allergy to humans. Soon after, Min-kyu opened his jacket, walked closer, and held one of the doctor's hands. Suddenly, his skin started to rash, which surprised the doctors. In the end, he received permission not to join the military due to health reasons. The scene changes, showing Min-kyu, who looks so perfect because he has a handsome face, and is wealthy, and works as a director of a company called KM Financial. Even so, Min-kyu actually feels very lonely. After all, he only lives in a big house alone because his parents died 15 years ago. Besides that, Min-kyu's disease, which is allergic to human touch and cannot be cured, makes it increasingly difficult for him to interact with others. So far, he has only been accompanied by his housekeeper who rarely meets. Occasionally, he is visited by the doctor who treats him. Because of this, he doesn't have human friends and only has a few cleaning robots that accompany him when he's at home. The scene changed, showing a woman in the middle of the crowd. The woman's name was Jo Jia. She apparently was in line to buy the latest edition of the action figure because it was an object ordered by her customer. Jia is a part-time worker who works by offering her services to people. Finally, she managed to get the action figure with great difficulty and went to meet her customer who had ordered the item. When she got there, it turned out that Jia's customer was Min-kyu, so he told her to put the action figure in the car so he could check the packaging. When Min-kyu checks the action figure's packaging, it turns out there are sauce stains, making him cancel the deal to give Jia a bonus. After that, he intends to leave, but Jia tries to chase his car, causing her to fall down instead. This forced Min-kyu to go out to make sure Jia was okay, but it turned out that it was just her trick to keep him from leaving. Jia again stopped Min-kyu, pulling his collar and begging him not to cancel their deal. However, he managed to escape, which made her angry, and she promised to revenge for his actions. One day, Min-kyu suddenly gets a video from Hong Bai-kyun, who works as a robot researcher. In the video, Bai-kyun demonstrates his creation robot named Agi-3. Then he says that the robot belongs to Min-kyu because it is written in the contract. It is known there that his research site is a subsidiary of Min-kyu's KM Financial, which is about to be sold due to bankruptcy. The next day, Min-kyu came to Bai-kyun's research site, the Daiyang Shipbuilding, Santa Maria Research. There, he first saw the Agi-3 robot and was interested because, finally, he could come into contact with the human form without having to suffer from allergies. Soon after, he orders Bai-kyun to send Agi-3 to his house to test his skills. After that, they will discuss the research funding agreement if he is satisfied with the robot's capabilities. The scene then changes, showing Min-kyu, who is attending a meeting at the company. At that time, Min-kyu finds out that Yuchul, the development staff leader, is hiding about their subsidiary, the Daiyang Shipbuilding where Bai-kyun works. Yuchul said that the place was a shipbuilding place that was bankrupt and would be sold soon. However, his words clearly differed from the facts that Min-kyu saw for himself when he visited the place. On the other hand, Bai-kyun accidentally damaged Agi-3's body parts, so it took him 2 days to repair it. Then he calls Min-kyu to ask for time without telling him that Agi-3 is damaged. Hearing this, Min-kyu tells Bai-kyun that he and his team only have 3 days before the Daiyang Shipbuilding is sold to the Bold Company from England. After that, Bai-kyun looked up the company's information and found out that the company was working in the field of patent hunters and not robot research. Then he contacted Jia, who turned out to be his ex-girlfriend and a model for Agi-3. He offers her to work with him and offers her a wage of 10,000 won. Soon after, Bai-kyun takes Jia to the research site, and she is very surprised to see that Agi-3 looks exactly like her. After that, Jia met her friend, Soon-hee, and told her about Bai-kyun's offer. However, Jia seemed to have doubts about Bai-kyun's offer, but finally, she took the offer and worked with him for 10,000 won to pay off her sister-in-law's debt. On the other hand, Min-kyu realized that his necklace had disappeared and looked very panicked. The next day, after agreeing that Jia was dressed and fitted with lenses and earphones connected to Agi-3 and Bai-kyun, and after that, she was sent to Min-kyu's house in a crate. At the same time, Min-kyu called Jia to ask about his missing necklace because she pulled his collar the other day. When the crate door was opened, Jia was surprised to see the person in front of her was Min-kyu. That almost gets Jia caught, but Bai-kyun gives Min-kyu an excuse that Agi-3 is currently in friend mode, and stupidly he believes it. Then he pressed the button on the back of Jia's neck at Bai-kyun's order, and she continued acting as the Agi-3 robot. But, suddenly, the electricity at his research site went out, making Jia confused about what she should do. Without Bai-kyun's help, Jia tries to take Min-kyu's test with her instincts until finally, she succeeds in passing the test. At the same time, her elder brother, Jinbei, and Min-kyu's secretary called Min-kyu to report that project funds at the company had been corrupted for the past 3 years by the head of social contributions. Hearing this, Min-kyu ordered Jinbei to order the head of social contribution to resign. If not, he would report to the authorities with charges of embezzlement of funds. Then he asked Jinbei to file a lawsuit against President Zhou or Jia with accusations of necklace theft. After that, Min Qiu tested Jia again and asked for opinions about the person who stole his necklace. She told Min Qiu that he should have investigated before accusing her of stealing his necklace. Suddenly, Min Qiu was choked by the medicine he was taking, almost killing him. Seeing that, Jia swiftly hit Min Qiu's back, saving him. Strangely, his illness doesn't react when Jia touches him, even though she is a real human, not a robot. After that, Jia was brought back to the research area, and Bai Qiun was seen scolding her because she didn't act according to his directions, even though their plan worked. This made Jia not accept it, leaving while asking him to change Agi 3's face. On the other hand, Min Qiu is seen calling Yuchul and telling him to cancel the sale of the Daiyang shipbuilding, even though, at that time, Yuchul was meeting with the head of the Bold Company. Meanwhile, Jia finally got Min Qiu's necklace which her sister-in-law found while washing her clothes, so she called Min Qiu to ask for his home address so she could send the necklace. After that, she went to a place to see the lamp experiment she was making. Jia apparently borrowed her sister-in-law's money to make a lamp experiment that she would show in a competition that would be held by KM Financial. However, at that time, she did not know that the company's leader was Min Qiu, and that her elder sister worked there. On the other hand, Min Qiu is still thinking about the incident this afternoon and is amazed by Agi 3. Min Qiu, who is already interested in the Agi 3 robot, intends to train it even longer. The scene changes, showing Bai Qiun, who is dizzy because one of the replacement parts for the Agi 3 robot is experiencing a delivery delay because one of his team named Hoktal incorrectly entered the shipping address and the replacement part will arrive in 5 days future. At the same time, Min Qiu called him and asked Agi 3 to be sent back to his home. Then Min Qiu tells Bai Qiun that he has postponed selling the Daiyang shipbuilding for a month because he wants to test Agi 3. However, Bai Qiun refuses to send Agi 3 again because Min Qiu had not signed their contract the other day. On the eve of his heart, Jinbei came to see Min Qiu to report that the head of social contribution had resigned. Hearing that, he ordered Jinbei to postpone all company projects and no longer need to take care of the theft of his necklace. After that, he explained his reasons for canceling the sale of the Daiyang shipbuilding because his father, Sung Jin, was initially interested in developing robots, but the project was rejected by the company. Therefore, his father made a secret agreement with Bai Qiun, and he was assigned to develop robots secretly at the Daiyang shipbuilding with a project value of 100 billion. Min Qiu then ordered Jinbei to oversee the movements of Yuchul and his father, Daon, in the company. Jinbei agreed and would do his job as best he could. But before leaving, Min Qiu told Jinbei to do something, and it turned out that Jinbei was ordered to make a deal with Bai Qiun and his team while advising them to follow his directions, because that was the best for them at the moment. The scene changes, showing Min Qiu visiting his parents' grave, who died 15 years ago, and that day is their death anniversary. However, he was surprised by Daon's arrival, who claimed he wanted to pay his respects. There, Daon realized that his son's ability, namely Yuchul, was not comparable to Min Qiu's, so he asked Min Qiu to support Yuchul's performance in the company as a friend. But Min Qiu said he doesn't have such a big influence in the company as he walked away from him. On the other hand, due to Min Qiu's order to postpone all projects at KM Financial, Jia and Sun-hei went to find the home address of the owner of KM Financial to submit a letter of request to continue the project. In the end, Jia found out that the owner of the financial KM was Min Qiu, which made her nervous, and she covered her face. After returning home, Jia argued with Jinbei and slammed the lampwork. This happened because he was suspicious of the 10,000 won that Jia got one day. However, his attitude made Jia angry, so she chose to leave. But her sister-in-law, Hangzhou, came out to prevent her from leaving. Suddenly, Jia got a call from the man who made her lamp art. He called her to ask for her help so that she would sell all the leftover items in his store because he was going to move places because his lease had ended. Jia then agreed, took the goods in a cart, and sold them on the road. Unfortunately, none of the goods were sold. At the same time, Min Qiu sees the company named Daiyang Shipbuilding on the list of companies to sell and sees that the company sells at a very low price. This made him think of a way out to maintain the company that his father had built. The scene changes, and Jia is seen getting a message from one of Bai Qiun's team named Sanup. He asks Jia to help them again, as Agi 3 is still not repairable. This made her think and feel that she had to do something so her lamp art could pass so she could get the money. The next day, Jia came to Bai Qiun's place and said she would accept the job for free. But he had to find her a place to live. After that, they left the Daiyang shipbuilding and took all the goods somewhere. Shortly after, 2 men named Miami and Alf came to the Daiyang shipbuilding. They reported to their boss that Bai Qiun's team had disappeared, causing Daon to be confused about the questions from the leaders of the Bold Company because it turned out that Yuchul had not cancelled the transaction with the Bold Company. On the other hand, it turns out that Baek Hyun brought all of his research items to Min Kyu's and Jia's house, hidden in a bag. Afterward, Min Kyu gave Baek Hyun and his team a new place to live in his warehouse with several conditions. It turns out that Min Kyu had planned this so that they could continue their research because he knew that the Daeyang shipbuilding was no longer safe. The next day, Jia returned to acting as Aji-3 and came to Min Kyu's house. Then he raided her and linked it to the electronics at his house because he thought Jia was a robot. Min Kyu then explained that he loved electronic goods and was ranked the highest in his house. The first item he mentioned was a back scratcher named Pretty 1. Then he pointed at Pretty 2, an old model vacuum machine, and Pretty 3, a vacuum machine that turned out to be having a birthday. Min Kyu explained it while smiling proudly. However, Jia felt strange about all of that. Then he said that Jia would get points and occupy the top ranked if she could surpass the points of these electronic items. Hearing that, Baek Hyun, who is watching from the monitor, laughs, but suddenly his stomach hurts from consuming the expired curry he ate yesterday. On the other hand, Jia ate the expired curry and had a stomachache. When she listened to Min Kyu's explanation about every room in his home, Jia finally found out that the necklace she accidentally took was Min Kyu's mother's favorite necklace. However, her stomachache was unbearable, so Jia farted near Min Kyu, and he was surprised to hear that sound. Then she reasoned that Min Kyu's pants smelled and had to change them. Fortunately, soon after, she managed to find a toilet and defecate. When finished, Jia cleaned the toilet by spraying perfume worth 1,001 so the smell wouldn't spread everywhere. But suddenly, Min Kyu went into the toilet. Because she was surprised to see him, Jia reasoned that she was cleaning the toilet, and stupidly he believed her. However, Min Kyu started to get suspicious when he saw the sweat on Jia's cheeks and intended to check it. Suddenly, he stepped on the soap on the floor, causing him to slip along with the perfume he was holding. Seeing that, she didn't stay still and caught the expensive perfume, causing it to fall right on top of Min Kyu. This made him feel hurt because Jia was wearing a corset made of titanium at that time. Because of that, Min Kyu scolded Jia because she chose to save her perfume rather than him. After that, he practices ways so that Jia can save him. But it turns out that her confused attitude makes him laugh, so she gets ranking points instead. Soon after, Min Kyu invites Jia to look into the fridge, where there are lots of fresh and expensive food ingredients. Then he teaches Jia to cook, which makes Jia, Baek Hyun, and his team interested. While Min Kyu was eating, Jia deliberately made him see KM Financial Company advertisement, and hoped that he would change his decision to continue the program that she was participating in. However, he said that if he was not interested in the art event, which was full of lies. Deep down, Jia feels mocked because her lamp art was indeed not her original work. Jia then asked Min Kyu what kind of person he was at KM Financial Company. However, Min Kyu was lazy to explain and diverted the conversation by asking Jia to help the senior vacuum cleaner who was cleaning the house. Hearing that, Jia was forced to obey even though she was annoyed. Suddenly, she accidentally dropped the card arrangement that Min Kyu had made. She panicked and said that her battery had run out. Then she pretended to be asleep so Min Kyu would not scold her. The scene then changes. Min Kyu meets Baek Hyun on the terrace outside his home to discuss Aji-3's problem. Min Kyu complains that Aji-3 can't be controlled. But at the same time, Jia and Sanup break into his house to take the leftover meat Min Kyu throws away. Seeing that, Baek Hyun tried to distract Min Kyu, so Jia and Sanup managed to get the almost expired meat. At night, they all eat the meat together, while Min Kyu is looking for a way to train wild dogs because he thinks that it can be applied to Aji-3, which is the method Baek Hyun suggested. The next day, Min Kyu scolded Jia while explaining that the card arrangement she broke yesterday was precious to him because he made it 15 years ago. Not long after, Yuchul came to his house, thus saving her from Min Kyu's anger. Then Min Kyu told Jia to hide so Yuchul wouldn't see her. After that, Yuchul asked his reason for canceling the sale of the Daeyang shipbuilding company. Min Kyu said that even if he was paid double the price, he would still refuse to sell the company. Min Kyu didn't even care if Yuchul got angry. When Yuchul left, he looked out the window where Jia was observing them. Afterward, Min Kyu told her to look at Daeun and Yuchul's faces. Soon after, Jia was asked to avoid them because those two people were his biggest enemies. Not long after, it was Jinbei's turn to come to Min Kyu's house. Jia was then told to prepare coffee for them. She finally found out that her elder brother worked as head of investigation at Min Kyu's company. Luckily, he could not see her identity, so Jinbei would not find out about her. The scene then changed. Shows Jia, who was invited by Min Kyu to a place to meet someone. While on the way, she took the initiative to change lanes towards the masses who were demonstrating to beg KM Financial to continue the competition they were participating in. However, Jia finally finds out that the head of social contribution of KM Financial has embezzled the event funds, making Min Kyu not intend to continue the competition. So Min Kyu met Sum Tai, who is Yuri's father. Yuri herself is Min Kyu's childhood friend. They met to discuss investing in game companies, but Min Kyu refused because KM Financial Company was not for investing but for buying and selling. Before he left, Sum Tai said that his daughter would arrive in Korea tomorrow. On the way home, Min Kyu told Jia that his parent had died in a car accident 15 years ago. When she saw him gloomy, she took the initiative to change her mode to friend mode to cheer him up. On the other hand, Yuchul was shown a video of the AGI-3 robot research, so he knew that the Daiyang shipbuilding company was engaged in robot research and not building ships as he had thought. Besides that, it turned out that Dawan had deliberately concealed the research facts so that Min Qiu would not take over the research against him. Since Min Qiu's parents died, Dawan has tried to take over the KM Financial Company, including the robot research that Min Qiu's father built, because he has a 70% stake while Dawan's family only owns 30%. The next day, Yuri finally arrived at Min Qiu's house, and she said she was appointed by Yuchul as the new head of social contribution at Min Qiu's company. She said that her father had set her up with Min Qiu, and she confidently said that she would accept him as her husband if he wanted to give her his first kiss on a date later. On the other hand, Jia is watching Yuri from a distance. She feels jealous of Yuri because she has a lot of work experience. Soon after, Yuri held Min Qiu's hand and made him finally go into the house because his skin began to change. It turned out that Yuri's touch made Min Qiu's disease react more severely than before, so Jia injected the medicine into his body. The scene changed, showing Min Qiu's life years ago. When he was little, it was seen that his life was very pleasant, but that situation changed when his family had an accident that killed his parents. Since then, Dawan started planning to take over all the companies Min Qiu's family owned. But someone named Madam X protected Min Qiu by giving him a letter. In the letter, Madam X advised Min Qiu that he should not sign anything and not answer anything, so he could avoid Dawan's trap. On the other hand, Dawan is trying to get Min Qiu to sign the dossier on the ownership of KM Financial Company by ordering his sons to provide the dossier combined with the burial certificate. Since then, Min Qiu got a strange skin disease after Yuchul held his hand while giving Dawan a file that was left with him. Because of that, Min Qiu chose to listen to Madam X's advice rather than Dawan's. After getting the disease, he decided to live in his house alone rather than join Dawan. The scene then changes, showing Min Qiu finally waking up and his skin disease healing faster than usual. He thanked Jia, who quickly injected him with medicine but was angry again because she injected him too much. Jia then left the place and accidentally saw the action figure that she bought the other day was completely stained with sauce. She realized that Min Qiu had not lied to her. After that, Jia returns to the research area, but Bai Qiun scolds her for getting too close to Min Qiu and leaves without him knowing. Bai Qiun looks jealous of their closeness there because he knows that Jia is an AGI-3. The scene changes, showing Jia meeting Sunhae to tell her about her experience as a robot at Min Qiu's house. At the same time, the necklace package that she sent finally arrived. Then he calls Jia to ask if her necklace is okay. After that, she discusses their plan to put in an application form for KM Financial to continue their race. On the other hand, Yuchul showed AGI-3's video to Jinbei, and he was surprised to see that AGI-3's face was very similar to his younger sister's, so that he feels confused about the problems where he works. He is still confused between following Yuchul or staying on Min Qiu's side. In the afternoon, Min Qiu came to the research site out of curiosity about AGI-3. Luckily, he doesn't know Jia's whereabouts because it turns out that Bai Qiun has installed a tracking device on his cell phone. So Bai Qiun blocks Min Qiu to make him not know their secret. After the other team members sleep, Bai Qiun and P view the footage of Min Qiu dying from an allergy. They are confused about his illness and do not understand. On the other hand, it looks like Jinbei can't sleep because he's still confused about AGI-3. He finds out that Jia used to date Bai Qiun, while Bai Qiun seems to be starting to have feelings for her again. The next day, Min Qiu asks Jia to open the necklace package she sent while saying he will give the necklace to the right woman one day. Meanwhile, Yuri is seen starting to work at KM Finance and meets Yuchul. It can be seen that he has feelings for her. At the same time, Jinbei comes to see Bai Qiun to ask him to change the face of AGI-3's robot. Jinbei asked why Jia and Bai Qiun broke up and explained that after they broke up, Jia's character changed. Hearing that, Bai Qiun feels that Jia still has feelings for him. On the other hand, Jia is with Min Qiu, who says he wants to be normal. They both almost kiss when Min Qiu says he wants to touch the woman he will marry one day. After that, he reopened the box he kept while looking at all the letters Yuri sent every year and put his necklace in a box. The scene changes, showing Jia seeing her request letter have arrived at Min Qiu's house. But unfortunately, he doesn't read the letter and instead invites her to go somewhere. On the other hand, it seems that Bai Qiun and P are looking at the footage when Min Qiu almost kisses Jia, which makes him jealous. Then he orders P to get Jia out of Min Qiu's house. However, it turns out that Jia is being taken somewhere by Min Qiu. Knowing that, Bai Qiun did not remain silent and tracked down Min Qiu's whereabouts and then chased him. So, Min Qiu asked Jia to accompany him on a date with Yuri. At that place, Jia was ordered by Min Qiu to prepare Yuri's favorite drink using the glass she gave him 15 years ago. But unfortunately, their first date failed because Yuri was not like the older he knew 15 years ago, so he refused the marriage and chose to remain friends with her. Even so, Min Kyu still gave Yuri a necklace left by his mother, and she agreed with that decision because, from the start, she wasn't interested in their match. However, Yuri did not accept the necklace from Min Kyu because she felt that the necklace was not something she should accept. Then they shook hands in agreement with the friendship, and that made Min Kyu's illness begin to appear. After Yuri left, Min Kyu took his necklace, intending to throw it away because he was disappointed with her attitude. But luckily, Jia stopped and calmed him. Suddenly, it made the rash on his skin disappear slowly. Then he took Jia home while explaining his reasons for refusing his match with Yuri because of his illness. However, Min Kyu was confused that the rash on his skin disappeared without injecting the drug. Plus, when someone bumped into him, his skin didn't react. Knowing that makes him happy because his disease has been cured. Then he took Jia to the crowd to ensure the disease was cured. When they were in a crowd, Min Kyu felt happy for the first time in his life. Jia then invited Min Kyu to enjoy the atmosphere in the crowd. It turned out that his illness did not recur, so he reported the symptoms he was experiencing to his doctor, Dr. Oh. But just when Min Kyu called Dr. Oh, the rash on his skin suddenly reappeared after a woman bumped into him. Then he realized his illness could get better if he was close to Jia. Soon after, he hugs Jia and kisses her forehead in the crowd. Suddenly, Bai Kyun arrives and hits Min Kyu. Seeing that, Jia was confused. Then she reasons that her battery has run out, so they stop fighting. Afterward, Bai Kyun takes Jia with him and intends to take her back to her elder brother's house. He said their contracts had ended, so Jia no longer needed to work with them. The scene changes, showing Min Kyu reporting what happened to Dr. Oh. Soon after, Dr. Oh tells him to record all the important events when he was with his robot so that he can research the cause of the rash and can be cured. At the same time, the replacement part for Agi 3 that Bai Kyun ordered has now arrived. Meanwhile, Jia didn't dare appear in front of her elder brother, so she decided to go to the sauna and stay there. But at that place, Jia instead thought about the incident when she was with Min Kyu, as well as Min Kyu, who kept thinking about Jia while continuing to talk to Dr. Oh. After hearing Min Kyu's explanation, Dr. Oh concluded that his illness had disappeared because of a trusting relationship between him and his robot. Meanwhile, Bai Kyun keeps thinking about what happened between Min Kyu and Jia. Then he leaves when he gets a message from P that they found a problem. Unbeknownst to Bai Kyun, Miami and Al follow him and find his hideout. When he arrived at his research site, Bai Kyun looked back at the recording of when Min Kyu was about to kiss Jia. He finally decided not to continue working with Min Kyu anymore and would look for other investors. Hearing that, Sanup, Hoktal, and P agree with Bai Kyun's decision because they don't want their robot to be used as a medium to vent Min Kyu's perverted nature. Deep down, actually, Bai Kyun doesn't want Jia to be close to him. On the other hand, Yuri met Yuchul to ask him for a drink while telling him that Min Kyu refused to go out with her. Hearing that, he was happy, but suddenly Min Kyu called Yuri and said he would go out with her. Because of that, Yuri cancelled her invitation to Yuchul. When Yuri returned to her room, she accidentally saw Jia's application form, and she was interested in the form. On the other hand, Jia daydreams about Min Kyu, thus ignoring Sunhee. An annoyed Sunhee tries to make fun of Min Kyu. Hearing that, Jia defends him. Not long after, she finds out from KM Finance that they will continue evaluating her lamp, which makes her happy because she has a reason to return to Min Kyu's house. The scene changes, showing Bai Kyun meeting Min Kyu to say he will break the contract because he doesn't want Agi 3 to get a perverted owner like Min Kyu. After that, he goes with P to find new investors, but unfortunately, no one is interested in their robot. On the other hand, Jia arrives at the gate of Min Kyu's house and calls P because she wants to get her suitcase. P then tells her to wait at the gate because Sanup will deliver her luggage. However, Min Kyu's maid sees Jia, then takes her inside. Sanup, who saw Jia being brought into Min Kyu's house, reported it to Bai Kyun. In the end, she returned to meet Min Kyu, and he said that Jia must belong to him. Even he said that no matter what happened, he would try to protect Jia from Bai Kyun, which amazed her. Shortly after, Min Kyu meets Sanup and Hoktal and tries to bribe them with lots of checks. But P comes and refuses the checks and then intends to drag them away from Min Kyu's presence. However, Min Kyu didn't give up. He offered another offer to the three of them. Unfortunately, P still refused. That makes him confused. What other way should he do so they don't cancel the contract? Jia then suggests that Min Kyu cook food that Bai Kyun likes, and he tries her suggestion and cooks the food himself. But while cooking, Min Kyu scratched his finger with a knife. When Jia wants to help him, he refuses because that's what he has to do to protect her. Seeing that made her amazed again by his attitude. On the other hand, P, Sanup, and Hoktal plan to take on Jia, while Bai Kyun cannot join because he is still looking for other investors. Then they accepted the invitation to dinner that Min Kyu had prepared. Soon after, Jia advised Min Kyu to change his attitude so he could be close to the three of them. They started to talk about their respective parents, but they were shocked and sympathetic after hearing that Min Kyu's parents had died in an accident. Afterward, Jia confronts P and begs the team not to leave Min Kyu. But P says they can't argue with Bai Kyun's decision. Before leaving, Sanup and Hoktal repaired Min Kyu's favorite vacuum machine, and when finished, he hugged and kissed his favorite vacuum machine in front of the three of them. Seeing that, P, Sanup, and Hoktal finally understand that Min Kyu is not a pervert, and can understand his attitude towards AG3 or Jia. As a token of their gratitude, they decided to spend the evening together. The next day, Min Kyu wakes up alone, and Jinbei soon reports that Bai Kyun has been slandered by his co-workers, so his reputation as a professor has become bad. Hearing this, Min Kyu meets Bai Kyun and says he will try to restore his reputation. But Bai Kyun refuses because he wants to restore his reputation with his own strength. Min Kyu then holds Bai Kyun's hand, which makes his room appear, but that can't make him change his mind and stay. Then he took AG3 and his colleagues away from Min Kyu's house. But when on the way, Bai Kyun felt confused when he remembered when Min Kyun showed his illness. He couldn't ignore his title as professor. Moreover, Jia and AG3 played an important role in helping Min Kyu recover. So Bai Kyun decided to return, making Min Kyu and Jia happy again. The scene changes, showing Min Kyu picking up Jia because he doesn't want her battery to run out quickly. Arriving home, he said to Jia that he needed a kiss, making her feel her heart was jolting. But Min Kyu then mentioned Yuri's name and said he had to learn to kiss women so his date with Yuri could run smoothly. Jia, initially nervous because she was happy, had to hide her jealousy. Soon after, Jia talks about Min Kyu's wishes for Bai Kyun and his team. Because Bai Kyun doesn't want Jia to become Min Kyu's experimental material, he tries to take over the matter. Then he brings Soonhee to pretend to be a romance expert known as the Goddess of Kiss so that Min Kyu makes her as a learning tool. But she instead tried to make Min Kyu and Jia closer because she knew that Jia had feelings for Min Kyu. The second date between Yuri and Min Kyu has come. Suddenly, Bai Kyun went with the excuse of accompanying Jia when Min Kyu was dating Yuri later. This obviously annoyed Min Kyu and Jia. Then he took Yuri to the place he had visited with Jia before. He did what he had done to Jia before, but Yuri didn't like it. Not far away, Miami and Alf are monitoring them on Mutual's orders and are surprised to see a robot AG3 that can eat ice cream. Meanwhile, Sanup asked Hoktal to accompany him to Soonhee's place. It turns out that Sanup falls in love with Soonhee at first sight, but it seems she is actually interested in Hoktal. Not long after, Yuri got a call from Mutual and intended to meet him, but she left Min Kyu alone. At the same time, Bai Kyun buys an umbrella seeing that it will rain soon. Unfortunately, he was stuck in a long queue, so Min Kyu covered Jia with the umbrella he had brought. Jia realizes that the umbrella is the result of her crazy idea. It was made by Bai Kyun when they were dating and won a competition at Min Kyu's company. Min Kyu himself praises the genius who made such an umbrella and hopes to meet him one day. His words amaze Jia, but suddenly someone bumped into her, making her almost fall. Fortunately, he hugged her. Jia, who had been carried away, unconsciously kissed Min Kyu's lips and surprised him. Then he is mad at Jia because a robot stole the first kiss he was supposed to give Yuri. The scene changes, showing Min Kyu both angry and happy with AG3's attitude yesterday. He thinks maybe AG3 kissed him for doing what she has learned. Because he was curious, he went to the research site to see AG3. Then he asked P whether a robot can learn about emotion. P then explained that AG3 might be able to react as if the robot had emotions and do it without waiting for commands. Hearing her explanation makes Min Kyu think AG3 is a very sophisticated robot. Meanwhile, Jia feels the same way and decides to tell Min Kyu that she is human when the test ends. The scene switches to show Min Kyu calling Dr. O and tells everything that happened, except for the kissing scene with AG3. Hearing that, Dr. O is happy with Min Kyu's recovery and life. He apparently has a patient who has the same disease as Min Kyu. He saw his patient improve after the nurse who had been taking care of him all this time became his girlfriend. Meanwhile, Bai Kyun is seen talking to P. He intended to improve his attitude, so he could get back together with Jia. Unfortunately, he doesn't realize that P has feelings for him. But P instead advises him to remember his mistakes with Jia in the past and learn from those mistakes. The next morning, Min Kyu asked Jia about yesterday's incident, but she acted as if she didn't remember it. Hearing that annoyed him. Not long after, Soonhee came. Min Kyu then told Soonhee of his frustration because Jia had stolen his first kiss, but after that, she forgot about it. Soonhee then suggests he go alone with Yuri so that their first kiss is successful. However, when he imagines Soonhee's suggestion, Jia always appears in his mind. Then Soonhee told Min Kyu not to take Jia on a date, but that was impossible because he couldn't go anywhere without Jia, which made him even more annoyed. After that, Min Kyu tries the same thing to get Jia to remember what happened that night, but Jia chooses not to talk about it, making him even more upset. Min Kyu feels unfair because only he remembers that important moment. Then he punishes Jia by ordering her to clean up the whole house. In that room, Jia saw again that Min Kyu had not read the letter she had sent the other day. When Jia was cleaning the window, Bai Kyun saw her and couldn't stay silent when he knew that Jia was being treated like that. He tries to replace her job, then Min Kyu orders her to clean the umbrella. Seeing that, Bai Kyun precedes him because the umbrella is his creation. However, Min Kyu doesn't believe it because Bai Kyun can't possibly have such a good idea, and Jia is again flattered because Min Kyu complimented her idea. That night, Min Kyu is seen visiting a research site and interacting with Aji 3. But there, Aji 3 answered all his questions with the same answers as P and Bai Kyun said. This made Min Kyu feel he had only interacted with all the input from them. Then he returns home disappointed and realizes that Aji 3 is just a robot, and that being with Aji 3 has only been a fake memory. Because of that, he decided to treat Aji 3 like treating a robot. Elsewhere, Soong Tai is seen meeting Daewon. At that place, he asked Soong Tai to make Yuchul his son-in-law and said that soon Yuchul would become the largest shareholder and the company's main director. Daewon even said that he would get rid of Min Kyu from the company during the biggest stock-gathering meeting later. But Soong Tai refused the offer because he had promised the late Min Kyu's father to support Min Kyu no matter what. After that, Soong Tai left the room. At the same time, Jinbei is seen looking for someone named Dongsa. The man is the former driver of Min Kyu's late father. Meanwhile, Min Kyu keeps his promise to restore Bai Kyun's reputation with an article that has been prepared, and will be released when the Aji 3 tests are over. They then celebrated by partying at Soon-hee's tavern. Suddenly, Soon-hee, the romance expert, realizes that there is a confusing relationship between them. P likes Bai Kyun, but he likes Jia, while Jia likes Min Kyu. On the other hand, Soon-hee didn't realize that she was interested in Hoktal, even though Sanup liked her. Then she made a challenge: if all the fingers were folded by something that she mentioned, then that person would invite the person whose fingers were folded to go out to buy ice cream. Soon-hee deliberately made P and Bai Kyun's fingers fold, and they left her shop. After that, Soon-hee took Sanup and Hoktal out, leaving Jia with Min Kyu. In a half-drunk state, Min Kyu folds his fingers while expressing his feeling that he cannot live without Aji 3. His confession touched Jia's heart, and she liked him even more. The next day, Bai Kyun and his team finished repairing Aji 3, but Aji 3 still couldn't control its mobility to follow Jia's movements. So Bai Kyun will perfect that robot in 4 days, meaning that is Jia's remaining time to disguise herself as a robot. So after everything was over, they would all just tell Min Kyu their secret, that the one who had accompanied him all this time was Jia. The scene changed, showing Jia, who was invited by Min Kyu to meet Yuri and her father. Their meeting was to discuss an arranged marriage between them. Min Kyu said that he wanted them to get engaged first before getting married, but Yuri didn't seem to agree with that. Even so, Soong Tai forced his daughter to accept it. Then Min Kyu thanked Yuri for the birthday card she had sent, but her reaction showed that the letters she had been sending were from her father. While on the way home, Min Kyu was seen treating Jia like a robot. He said he would reset her program after the test was over, even though he still hopes that Jia, whom he thinks is Aji 3, is human. Hearing that made Jia feel guilty and sad because she had entered his life. The scene then changes, showing Jia in the middle of taking her nephew to the hospital because he suffers from allergies. Then she meets Dr. Oh, who happens to be handling her nephew. She asks Dr. Oh, does anyone have allergies caused by human touch? Hearing that, Dr. Oh said that if the disease exists and can be cured when the sufferer gets someone who really can be trusted. He said that after seeing his patient the other day. On the other hand, Jinbei can be seen getting a call from Dongsa, the former driver of Min Kyu's late father, whom he is looking for. Dongsa said he would send all the videos to Min Kyu if he could remove Daewon from the company. After that, Jinbei was summoned to Daewon's room, and he asked Jinbei to side with him. Daewon then explained that soon Min Kyu would be fired from the KM Financial Company. Knowing that made Jinbei again in a dilemma of whether to side with Daewon or remain loyal to Min Kyu. Soon after, Daewon ordered his men to look for Dongsa because he already knew that Min Kyu was currently looking for his whereabouts. It turned out that Dongsa had evidence of Daewon's bad attitude all along. Not to forget, Daewon ordered his men to find Aji 3. His men then met Miami and Alf to ask them about the situation. Alf said Aji 3 could eat like a human, but what he saw was Jia. The scene changes, showing Bai Kyun taking Jia out for dinner, hoping to get her back. At that place, Jia started to tell him why she decided to break up. The reason was that Bai Kyun was too busy with his research, so he didn't have time for her. Even when she wanted to tell a story, Bai Kyun was never around, and her ideas were always considered useless by him. On the other hand, Jinbei reported everything he could to Min Kyu about Daewon, who knew about the tapes owned by Dongsa. Then he gave all of his IDs and passwords so that Jinbei could access all financial KM data so that Jinbei would be freer to investigate Daewon's fraud. Before leaving, Jinbei apologizes for doubting him. The scene then changes, showing Bai Kyun surprising Jia with the help of Sanup, Hoktal, and P. They then said they would help Jia win the competition she was about to participate in, as well as fix the lamp that Jinbei had broken. At the same time, Min Kyu finally read the petition letter that Jia made, and he was touched when reading the letter. The day of the competition held by KM Financial has finally come. It can be seen that Yuchul took part in the event, while Jia disguised herself so that Min Kyu and Jinbei would not recognize her. But unfortunately, her disguise was easily spotted by Jinbei. When Yuchul was about to give a speech at the event's opening, he saw Min Kyu watching him on the top stand. During the event, no one was interested in Jia's light stand, which made her sad. But suddenly, the shadow of her father appeared, making her enthusiasm return. And she kept trying so that the light would be surrounded by the audience that would later judge her. Soon after, Bai Qiyun comes to the place and tells Jinbei that Jia has a unique and passionate mind. Hearing Bai Qiyun's words make Jinbei's suspicions turn into pride for her. After the event was over, Yuchul visited the booths of the participants one by one, including Jia and Min Qiu. However, it turned out that they came to Jia's stand. Min Qiu then quipped whether the lamp could be given to a friend who always makes him suffer. Hearing that, Jia remembered when Min Qiu told her to remember the faces of Yuchul and Dawan, and said that he should have left his friend and met a new friend. Min Qiu then tested the lamp, and suddenly Jia's shadow, when she became Agi 3, appeared in front of him, making him even more confused. At the same time, his illness was cured. Soon after, Bai Qiyun tells Jia of his past mistakes to Jinbei and intends to ask Jinbei for help so he can get back together with Jia. However, Jinbei chose not to interfere in their love affairs. He asked Bai Qiyun to keep Jia a secret for a while so as not to disturb Min Qiu's mind. Jinbei says that currently, Min Qiu is maintaining Bai Qiyun's team and Daiyang shipbuilding a loan from Dawan, who will sell them to the Bold Company. The scene changes, showing Min Qiu meeting Dr. O and hugging him, saying that his illness had healed when he held the lamp and saw Agi 3. However, Dr. O advises him not to be with Agi 3 anymore because he will soon marry Yuri. Then Dr. O asks Min Qiu to forget Agi 3 and think of it as a way out of his 15-year illness because Agi 3 is just a robot that can't accompany him until he's old. When Min Qiu left, Jia came to see Dr. O and intends to ask again about the disease that she asked about the other day. Dr. O showed a video of his patient who had the same disease as Min Qiu, and Jia cried seeing the video because she knew she would be separated from him. She again asked if someone could recover with the robot's help, which made Dr. O suspicious. Then he asked if Jia knew Bai Qiyun. The scene changes, showing Min Qiu inviting Bai Qiyun to drink at a cafe to discuss his recovery. At that place, he is grateful because he can recover thanks to the robot created by Bai Qiyun. At the same time, Jia brought Dr. O to Bai Qiyun's research site. Then Dr. O was surprised to see that Agi 3's face was very similar to Jia's. He gets angry and asks where Bai Qiyun is, while Bai Qiyun sees Min Qiu crying while saying that he can't forget his feelings for Agi 3. After returning to his research site, Bai Qiyun is met by Jia, who expresses her disappointment at him for having the heart to send her even though she already knew that Min Qiu had an allergy to humans. Jia feels that Bai Qiyun is only using her to get the 50 million investment Min Qiu promised. She is afraid that Min Qiu's situation will worsen when he finds out the robot in front of him is her. Then P tries to explain that Jia has misunderstood. But she doesn't want to hear any explanation and leaves the place. Outside, Miami and Alf, who is monitoring, sees Jia leaving Bai Qiyun's research area, so they follow her and find information that Agi 3 has been at Jinbei's house all this time. On the other hand, Bai Qiyun looks back at the recording of Jia acting as Agi 3. After that, he contacts her and regrets what he did. But Jia feels that the mistake was not only caused by Bai Qiyun. Therefore she decides to tell everything to Min Qiu, and Bai Qiyun agrees with her decision because they have to end the lies they have made. Meanwhile, Min Qiu orders Agi 3 to come to his house, and this time the real Agi 3 meets him. Then he revealed that he couldn't do anything about his feelings. He cried sadly because Agi 3's test would soon be over, and he could no longer hold back his sadness because he could not face his feelings for Agi 3. The scene changes, showing Bai Qiyun and Jia on their way, intending to tell Min Qiu everything. However, Dr. O calls and forbids them after he gets news that the patient he treated before has now died after being lied to by his partner. He told them to find another way so that Min Qiu would not experience the same thing. Sometime later, Bai Qiyun informs Min Qiu and says they should reset the Agi 3 program back to its original settings, and Min Qiu agrees with his suggestion. However, Jia is forced to disguise herself as Agi 3 again to meet Min Qiu, and spend some time together before he resets the Agi 3 program. After that, they told each other they were happy. Soon after, Min Qiu even gave Jia his late mother's necklace. Even though it felt very hard, he finally resets the Agi 3 and Jia programs while saying he really loved her. After that sad incident, Jia fell ill due to holding back her sadness for so long. While Min Qiu is now changing his life and starting to mingle with the employees at his company. He looks happy even though his employees are very scared when they see him. The scene then changed, showing Min Qiu assisted by Jinbei collecting all the company files he was going to investigate. Then he asked about Dongsa's whereabouts, but Jinbei didn't get any information yet. Not long after, Madam X sent an email regarding the accumulation of shares Dawan had obtained for terminating Min Qiu. Seeing that, Min Qiu naturally thought he should get the recording from Dongsa as soon as possible. When Min Qiu came home, he was surprised to see Bai Qiyun's team cooking in his kitchen. They did that because, previously, Jia asked not to leave Min Qiu alone. After that, he ate their food, and they played a game of red light and green light. But at that time, Min Qiu still imagined Agi 3 was in front of him. The scene then changed. Min Kyu was seen checking the list of action figures that had just been released, so he contacted President Joe, none other than Jia, to buy the action figure. But Jia said she couldn't buy the action figure because she would go somewhere far. Jia then hung up the phone and then cried sadly, and it turned out that Bai Kyun heard the conversation from outside her room. Sometime later, Jia recovered and got a passport to go to Australia. She told her sister-in-law and her nephew her intentions. After that, she went back to working part-time, so she could raise money to buy plane tickets. On the other hand, Yuchul suddenly changed his mind and asked his father not to sell the Daiyang shipbuilding to the Bold Company. But his father insisted on selling the company so that Yuchul could replace Min Kyu's position. Even so, he still refused and left his father's room. It turned out that Yuchul overheard Daewon and his men's conversation about the secret of Min Kyu's father's death that Dongsa kept. On the other hand, Min Kyu fails to meet with Dongsa because Daewon's men hunt him. Knowing that his plan failed, Min Kyu and Jinbei will carry out another plan he had prepared. The scene then changes, showing Min Kyu accompanying Yuri to try on the clothes she will wear at their engagement later. But she realized that Min Kyu was just forced and made her remember Yuchul, without Min Kyu realizing that Jia was in the same place and was sending a package to the boutique. Fortunately, Jia managed to leave before Min Kyu realized it. She felt that he had now forgotten AG3 and living a happy life. The next day, the meeting of the shareholders of the KM Financial Company began. It can be seen that Min Kyu issued his backup plan, namely, bringing Bai Kyun's team to the company higher up. Min Kyu said Bai Kyun's team was producing robots and not building ships like Daewon had been hiding all this time. Finally, his plan made Yuchul resign from the company to protect his father's reputation. After the meeting was over, Yuchul expressed his disappointment at Min Kyu because all this time, he had not left Min Kyu, but Min Kyu had left him. Min Kyu said Yuchul had left him 15 years ago when he handed him the company ownership certificate. When he got home, Min Kyu received the lamp that Jia promised him, which made him remember AG3 again. Not long after, Bai Kyun sent a message to Min Kyu and said they intended to change AG3's face. This made him go to Bai Kyun and ask Bai Kyun not to change AG3's face because he missed her so much. Min Kyu then brings AG3 to his house and tries to do the same thing as when they first met. He hopes it can bring AG3 back, and he is very sorry for resetting the AG3 program. Unfortunately, his efforts are unsuccessful because AG3 is not Jia who has been accompanying him. The next day, Min Kyu met Yuri to discuss their engagement. However, he decided not to continue, and that decision certainly relieved Yuri. Then they returned to being friends as usual. Soon after, Min Kyu went to work by train and confessed to Jinbei that he just wanted to get some fresh air. However, it turns out that Jia is at the same station and train as him, and the meeting certainly surprises them both. On the other hand, Jia said she wants to stay in her sister-in-law's hometown and will live with her grandmother before she goes to Australia. But she instead meets Min Kyu, so she is forced to act as if she doesn't know him, and Min Kyu himself can't do anything but daydream looking at her face. When he arrived at his destination, Min Kyu decided to buy another ticket to follow Jia and cancel his job. Then he calls Bai Kyun to ask about AG3's face model, but Bai Kyun reasons that he made AG3 based on the model of a part-time woman who currently can't be contacted anymore. Min Kyu requests that Bai Kyun introduce him to AG3's model someday, but Bai Kyun tells him not to meet her and that it's better to ignore her, fearing that Min Kyu will act strange in front of her. Shortly after, Bai Kyun calls Jia to ensure they don't see each other. Unfortunately, her phone is unreachable. Then he went to a place to meet Yuchul, and Yuchul then showed him the photo of Jia he got from Miami. Seeing that, Bai Kyun calmly said that Jia was just a model for AG3. Then Yuchul asked if the woman who met Min Kyu was Jia or AG3. Hearing the question, Bai Kyun acted as if he didn't understand what Yuchul meant, and left the place. On the other hand, P finds a strange protected folder that is huge and cannot be deleted from her computer. Not long after, Miami disguised himself as the room designer Bai Kyun's team had been waiting for. He then inserts a flash drive containing a virus connected to the computers of the hackers that Yuchul has hired. Meanwhile, Jia arrived at her grandmother's house, which had a place to eat and lodging. She worked there to divert her mind from Min Kyu. Without her knowing it, Min Kyu continues to follow her wherever she goes until finally, he dares to appear in front of her. However, Jia continued to act as if she didn't recognize Min Kyu, and told him to leave. Soon after, Min Kyu ordered food to buy time so he could get acquainted with Jia. Then she prepares food, hides her necklace between the plates and informs Bai Kyun that Min Kyu is following her. At the same time, Bai Kyun and his team were fighting against Yuchul's hired hackers. Fortunately, one by one, they give up cause they can't save it. Fortunately, Bai Kyun's team's important files were safe for the time being, and after collecting some evidence, Bai Kyun finally found out who the mastermind behind the attack was. The scene then changes. Yuchul is seen meeting Yuri at a cafe. There, she expressed her disappointment with him because of his bad character. Yuri then came home and said she didn't want to continue her match with Min Kyu, but her father insisted. Sometime after she left, Yuchul received news that the hackers he hired had started to give up, making him angry. Meanwhile, Min Kyu was waiting for Jia with food still intact in front of him. Jia then asked his intention to follow her. At the same time, Baekhyun read messages from Jia and tried to contact her, but she could not be contacted. Afterward, Baekhyun calls Dr. Oh to tell him about Jia and Min Kyu's meeting. Dr. Oh then orders Jia to keep their secret forever. Meanwhile, Min Kyu explained why he followed Jia by saying he had recently lost a friend who looked like her. She was stunned to hear his words but acted as if she didn't recognize Min Kyu for his own good. However, because Min Kyu persisted, Jia finally admitted that she was the model for AG 3 but not the AG 3 he knew. After that, she told Min Kyu to leave, but he begged to stay to see her face, forcing Jia to drag him outside. On the other hand, Baekhyun is seen trying to catch up with Min Kyu, accompanied by P, who insists on accompanying him because she doesn't want him to experience difficulties alone. The scene again shows Jia calling Sunhee, but Min Kyu suddenly appears, which surprises them. Min Kyu realized the first time Jia met him was when she disguised herself as AG 3. Besides that, he was allowed to enter because he rented a room from his grandmother. Not long after, Baekhyun called Min Kyu, told him not to be too overbearing towards his robot model, and then hung up on him. Min Kyu then called Jinbei to ask if Jinbei knew who the model of the AG 3 robot was. Unfortunately, he kept Jia's secret from Min Kyu. At the same time, one of the remaining hackers manages to break in and copy the files that can't be deleted. Meanwhile, the car that Baekhyun is driving suddenly breaks down in the middle of the road. On the other hand, Jia's grandmother asked Min Kyu to accompany Jia to the warehouse to get something. Hearing that, he wouldn't waste the opportunity to keep looking at her face, and he said yes. After that, Min Kyu begins to recall his memories with AG 3. But when they were looking for things in the warehouse, someone locked the door, thinking the warehouse was empty and trapped them inside. On the other hand, P cannot contact them because there is no signal in the warehouse. Shortly after, P tells Baekhyun to rest and repair his car tomorrow morning. Then she asks if Baekhyun is okay with Jia and Min Kyu's relationship. He said that he had accepted Jia's departure when he saw there was nothing they could do to fix their relationship. At this time, he only wanted to save Min Kyu, who he considered as his brother. Baekhyun said that although it hurts, the pain is not comparable to what Jia and Min Kyu are feeling now. While Baekhyun is asleep, P repairs the car alone. At the same time, Min Kyu and Jia spent time together telling stories. Then Min Kyu told what he felt while he was with AG 3. Jia, who heard his story, felt happy but sad. That night they all spent the time until morning came. The scene then changes, showing Yuchul's hacker successfully breaking into AG 3's password folder and getting a secret video that Yuchul can use to get rid of Min Kyu. At the same time, Yuri again worked up the courage to cancel her engagement with Min Kyu, but her father insisted on setting them up, leaving Yuri speechless. Not long after, Baekhyun and P arrived at Jia's place and were going to take Min Kyu home. However, Jia's grandmother actually got the news that her friend had an accident, so she left Jia to look after the shop alone. Just as they are about to leave, a swarm of customers arrives and overwhelms Jia. Soon after, they took the initiative to help Jia serve customers, and she took the necklace she was hiding. Elsewhere, Yuchul meets Jinbei and says he found something related to Jia that made Jinbei speechless. Even so, Jinbei kept trying to protect her little sister by calling Min Kyu, and intending to tell him that the model from AG 3 was her little sister. But Min Kyu instead hung up on him and was going to call Jinbei back after he finished eating. On the other hand, Yuchul is seen meeting his father and saying that he will take back his seat, and Daewon can gather the board of directors to fire Min Kyu. Meanwhile, Haktal and Sanip finally realized that the folder on the stolen computer was made by AG 3. The folder was created because of Jia's wish when Min Kyu was about to reset AG 3's program, and the folder contains all the videos when Jia disguised herself as AG 3. When Baekhyun and P were shopping, Sanip and Haktal reported that the AG 3 folder had been broken into. That made Baekhyun rush back. But unfortunately, he didn't find Min Kyu in the car. Meanwhile, elsewhere, Daewon has received a flash drive containing a video showing Min Kyu dying from his illness, and the video will be used by him to get rid of Min Kyu. On the other hand, Min Kyu had returned to the shop to meet Jia, but someone said she had just gone to the beach carrying all her things. Then Min Kyu rushed to see her, who was crying. Seeing him coming surprised her, making her forget to hide her necklace. This made Min Kyu finally realize that all this time, AG 3, who had always been with him, was Jia. And suddenly, the rash on his body reappeared because now he knows that Jia and Baekhyun's team have lied to him. Day by day, Min Kyu was dying because he was holding back pain that was getting worse than before. Luckily, Baekhyun injected medicine and then brought him home, assisted by Dr. Oh. Baekhyun's team and Jia certainly feel very guilty because what they feared has come true. After receiving treatment from Dr. Oh and being helped by his memories with Jia, Min Kyu finally made it through the critical period. On the other hand, Dowan meets with Bae Kyun's team to talk about the test video he got in an article that cornered Min Kyu. He will distribute the article so he can get rid of Min Kyu from the company. Then he agreed with Bae Kyun's team to exchange information and videos he stole with AG3, and Bae Kyun without hesitation signing the agreement. Forcefully, Bae Kyun is willing to let go of AG3 and join Dowan so that Min Kyu won't be fired from his company because, for them, Min Kyu's recovery and safety are more important right now. Min Kyu, who has regained consciousness, is seen limping toward the kitchen. Jia, who is wearing a medical uniform, intends to help him, but she is afraid that his illness will react. Dr. Oh then met with Bae Kyun's team and Jinbae to tell them that Min Kyu managed to get through his critical period. Hearing that news relieves them. After that, Jinbae came to see Min Kyu and brought a written statement from Bae Kyun's team containing their lies. Knowing this, he ordered Jinbae to sue them all without exception. Jinbae explains that he can't sue them. If he did that, he would be fired from the company because Bae Kyun had signed an agreement with Dowan. But Min Kyu didn't seem to care about them anymore and insisted on asking Jinbae to keep making a lawsuit. Then Jinbae submitted his resignation letter stating that Jia had been his younger sister while promising he would leave after all the tasks Min Kyu had completed. Min Kyu certainly felt very disappointed when he discovered that the people he had trusted all this time even lied to him. After that, he expelled Jinbae and Bae Kyun's team from his house, and Jinbae conveyed the message to Bae Kyun's team. Hearing that, they accepted his decision. Then they packed their things, although they didn't know where to go. Meanwhile, Jia sees Dr. Oh for advice on what she should do to help Min Kyu. He says that Jia only needs to restore Min Kyu's trust. Soon after, Jia went home and asked her sister-in-law to teach her to cook. At the same time, Bae Kyun's team told Min Kyu's demands to Soonhee. Then Soonhee said, the deeper their love, the more their disappointment hurts, and Bae Kyun's team certainly understands her meaning. Even so, they still feel they deserve it from Min Kyu. The scene then changes, showing Dowan meeting Seung Tae again and planning to marry his 2 children again and get rid of Min Kyu. In the end, Seung Tae agreed because he didn't want his daughter to get a future husband who had a strange disease. The next morning, Jia brought the food she had made, but Min Kyu ignored her while throwing away all the food she had brought. Even so, Jia still tries to get Min Kyu to forgive her. Meanwhile, Bae Kyun takes P to a campus, so she gets a job as a professor at the campus. But P refuses the offer because she doesn't want to leave Bae Kyun no matter what. As time passed, Jia always returned to prepare food for Min Kyu every morning. So that made him feel angry with her presence. He thought Jia did this so that he would cancel his demands. When Min Kyu was about to touch Jia, she avoided him, making him even more suspicious of her. Min Kyu again threw away the food she had brought and chased her away again. But before leaving, Jia said that she was not afraid of his illness and would continue to come back to see him. After a day of looking for a place to live, Bae Kyun invites P to rest at a cafe. At that place, she asked if Bae Kyun was afraid she would accept the offer as a professor, and then left him. Bae Kyun answered honestly that he feared losing P, which made her smile strangely. After that, Bae Kyun talks about Min Kyu's situation. P says they have to believe in Jia because Jia knows Min Kyu better than they do. At the same time, Min Kyu met his butler, Mr. Seung, because he felt uneasy with Jia's words. He asked Mr. Seung not to let Jia into his house again. Mr. Seung then told a story about a hedgehog who endured the pain of hugging to fight the cold, and Min Kyu understood the story's meaning. The next day, Jia came to Min Kyu's house late because of an accident. That made Min Kyu think that she was lying to him again. When she came, Min Kyu expressed all his frustration while saying that she disguised herself as AG3 just to trick him into reopening the competition that she was participating in. Min Kyu, while crying, said that Jia should have kept hiding her lies so that he would not feel too much pain. Then Jia tried to explain everything, but Min Kyu refused any explanation, and then kicked her out. Even so, she still sends food to him. The next day, Soonhee came to Min Kyu's house to tell Min Kyu that Bae Kyun and his team really loved him. She told him that Jia tried apologizing and even learned to cook until her hands were covered in wounds. After saying that, Soonhee went with one lamp made by Jia to her room and left the other lamp in Min Kyu's house. Then he went somewhere to ensure Soonhee's words. It turned out that her words were proven when he saw Sanip and Haktal fall to catch his car just to apologize. Min Kyu then came home and saw that the umbrella that Jia had left was exactly the same as the umbrella he had kept all this time. He then remembered the portfolio, which showed that the umbrella was her work. Min Kyu remembered his words that he wanted to meet the genius who made the umbrella one day. Then he touched Jia's lamp, and the lights in her room shone so that she remembered that Min Kyu had invited her to watch a shooting star on a hill. The scene then changed, showing Jia and Min Kyu, who finally met at that place. He asked Jia to explain all the lies she has been doing all this time and other facts she has been hiding. After that, she recounted all the events when they first met, starting as President Zhou and ending as Zhou Jia. At the same time, Seung Tae met with Dowan to tell him about his plans to get Yuri and Yuchul married. But Yuri refused because she was still disappointed with Yuchul and her father's attitude. Meanwhile, P is taken aback when Soonhee suddenly asks Haktal out on a date in front of him. Back to Jia and Min Kyu. After hearing enough of her stories, Min Kyu finally decided to leave and say goodbye to her. But Jia certainly stops him by saying that what she's been through so far is not just a story, but leaves a feeling she can't hold back. Jia finally says that she loves Min Kyu as herself, not as a robot. Hearing this, he returned and kissed her. Finally, that night ended with a happy hug. On the other hand, Soon-hee and Hoktal decided to date. The next day, the leader of the Bold Company, Martin, met Dowan and Yuchul and ordered them to hand over AG3 before the signing ceremony started, so he could check on the robot. At the same time, Jinbei and Baekhyun are seen looking for Dongsa after Jinbei gets an email from Madam X. At that place, they ask Dongsa to work together to remove Dowan from the company. But unfortunately, he didn't want to give away the recording because he was afraid that Dowan would look for him and his family's safety could be threatened. On the other hand, Min Kyu remembers how he treated Jinbei so far, making him feel awkward when he calls him to drop all charges against Baekhyun's team and Jia. After Min Kyu dared to call Jinbei, he asked Jinbei to come to his house to discuss the resignation letter the other day. He said he rejected the letter and asked Jinbei to work with him again because he believed that Jinbei had not deceived him. Jinbei then told all the information he got about Martin, who was going to take AG3, and Dongsa, who didn't want to cooperate. When Min Kyu is reading Sanep's application letter, Mr. Soong suddenly says something is going on at the research site, so Min Kyu comes to the research site and finds out that Martin's men have brought AG3. On the other hand, Martin and his colleagues are seen chatting while watching AG3 for research. There, they said AG3 would be used as a very dangerous weapon, and they talked about the secret of killing Min Kyu's parents. Without them knowing it, AG3 can record anything and store it without orders. The scene then switches, showing Min Kyu meeting with Baekhyun and asking him to tell the truth about Jia and AG3. Then he told everything to Min Kyu. He said he had given up on Jia because Min Kyu seemed more worthy of making her happy. After hearing Baekhyun's stories, Min Kyu goes to Dowan to make a deal to sell Baekhyun's team to him so he will gladly resign from the company. However, Dowan refused Min Kyu's offer because even without Baekhyun's team, he could still get rid of Min Kyu because of his illness. After that, Yuchul came to see Min Kyu, saying that Min Kyu was stupid and willing to change positions for people who had deceived him. Hearing that, he said someone like Yuchul would not understand his decision. The scene then changed. Min Kyu was seen asking for Soong Tai's help, but he flatly refused Min Kyu's request, saying that he would set Yuri up with Yuchul. When he returned home, Min Kyu received an email from Madam X. The email was about the results of a reinvestigation of his parents' deaths. On the other hand, the publishing company had prepared an article that would be published according to Dowan's orders. The next day, Jia and Baekhyun's team prepared dinner for Min Kyu. That dinner turned out to be his last dinner with Baekhyun's team because they were about to move. However, he refused the separation and wanted them to return to his house. Fortunately, his request was approved by them. On the other hand, AG3 keeps remembering Martin's attitude, which is very different from that of Baekhyun's team. After dinner, P goes to the research site and cries because he misses AG3. Not long after, Baekhyun arrives and apologizes for his decision while calming P down. Meanwhile, Jia is comforting Min Kyu over the company's problems that have yet to find a solution. Suddenly, his cell phone rings, and he sees an email from Madam X. He finally finds a way out to defend the company and Baekhyun's team. Jia then escorted Min Kyu to meet a woman who claimed to be Madam X's subordinate. The woman said that the Bold Company was under Interpol's supervision for crimes of murder, fraud, and destruction. But Interpol couldn't arrest them because there was no strong enough evidence. However, if Dongsa has something about Martin, it will be easy for Interpol to catch Martin and put Dongsa in the witness protection program. The next day, Min Kyu and Jinbei meet Dongsa to convince him to cooperate with them while handing him a witness protection letter from Interpol. After that, Min Kyu stopped the ongoing meeting between Dowan and the Bold Company while bringing in the police. Soon after, he was arrested on charges of murdering Min Kyu's parent before company officials. At the same time, Dowan's men received information that AG3 had disappeared. Min Kyu then calls Baekhyun to find AG3 before Martin gets ahead of them. On the other hand, Dowan remains silent even though the recording of his involvement in the death of Min Kyu's parents has been played. Meanwhile, Yuchul finally found out that it was actually Martin and Dowan who killed Min Kyu's parents, who were only asked to admit it to get funds from them and help control the company. Soon after, AG3 was found by Martin and Dowan's subordinates. Fortunately, Miami and Alf rescued AG3. Then the police and Baekhyun's team came for help. After that, AG3 was brought home by Baekhyun's team, and AG3 said she was very happy to interact with humans while on the trip. Baekhyun then asked her back up all of her recording files. The scene then moves, showing Min Kyu tired and hungry after carrying out his duties. Then he asked Jia to cook something for him. Shortly after, they kissed. While Min Kyu enjoys his time with Jia, Dowan still tries to eliminate him from the company by ordering his men to instigate Soong Tai to work with them. After seeing the agreement letter, Soong Tai was captivated by Dowan's seduction, and they planned to get rid of Min Kyu by uploading a video of when he was dying. Knowing that, Yuri asked her father to stop, but Seung Tae didn't want to listen to her words. After that, she called Yuchul to look for the videotape. And it turned out that AG3's test video was deliberately cut by Daewon so that Yuchul would not know about it. At the same time, Min Kyu and Bae Kyun's team were celebrating Sanup's birthday. Suddenly, P changed her appearance to become more feminine. Then they saw footage from AG3 when Martin brought it, and with that footage, Bae Kyun and his team were able to develop other robots that could accompany humans. After that, Bae Kyun decided to deactivate AG3 and change its face, so the program would continue to develop the next robot. Then they thanked and said goodbye to AG3 while saying she would always live in their hearts. After that, Min Kyu gave Martin's crime confession to the woman sent by Madame X, while Yuchul intended to apologize to Min Kyu, but he didn't dare to enter his house. Soon after, Yuchul met Mr. Seung and decided to come with him inside. At that place, Mr. Seung told about Min Kyu's suffering for 15 years. Hearing that, Yuchul finally realized his mistakes. Then, he met Yuri to plan something. The next day, Min Kyu's layoff meeting finally started. But, when the board was about to propose a decision, Yuchul detained them to witness Min Kyu giving a statement in front of the reporters. Min Kyu then told of the illness he was suffering from and explained that Bae Kyun's team and the robot they studied had helped him recover. He said KM Finance will now invest in Bae Kyun's team, who will develop the robot. Reporters quickly changed the contents of Daewon's article with the latest news about Min Kyu. Turned out that the news spread fast, thus making many investors want to invest in his company. Then Yuchul convinced the higher-ups that Min Kyu was very suitable to lead the company, and he and Yuri refused the layoff, which made other high-ranking officials unable to do anything, including Seung Tae. After that, Yuri brought Min Kyu and Yuchul together. At that time, Yuchul apologized for his mistakes. Seeing that, Min Kyu happily forgave him, then asked Yuchul to persuade Daewon to stop and admit all his actions because Interpol had received the recording. Min Kyu suggested this so that Daewon would not get a harsh punishment and serve a sentence to reflect on his mistakes. The scene changed, and Jinbei was seen meeting Min Kyu. He feels his work is done and asks Min Kyu to agree to his resignation the other day. But the news was heard by Hongjo, which made her angry. Even Jia and her nephew could not calm Hongjo's anger. The next day, Jia asked Min Kyu to come to her house to persuade Jinbei to return to work in front of Hongjo. At the same time, Soon-hae and Hoktal are seen going on their first date, but Sanup always seems to be bothering them. Meanwhile, Bae Kyun and P are having fun at the place suggested by Min Kyu. Unexpectedly, Sanup met his old friend from America and spent time with their partners. The scene then changes, showing Min Kyu visiting Daewon in prison. At that place, Min Kyu asked him to stop following his ambition because Min Kyu, Yuri, and Yuchul would advance the company differently from their parents. After that, Min Kyu went to Jia's house and asked Jinbei not to resign. Finally, Jinbei agreed, but with the condition that Min Kyu had to separate work and personal matters. At the time, Min Kyu was the boss, while outside, he was a candidate for his elder brother-in-law, and agreed with Jinbei's conditions. After that, Jia took Min Kyu to her room, where he saw lots of creative ideas from her that she had kept in her locker. Not long after, Jia's nephew called them because Hongju had contractions. Because of that, they took Hongjo to the hospital. After that, they looked happy because she gave birth to a very cute baby girl. 2 years later, it can be seen that Bae Kyun has succeeded in creating a new robot, and brought his team to success. While Jia has succeeded in marketing her ideas, as well as Jinbei, who now serves as more than just a secretary at Min Kyu's company. Meanwhile, Yuri and Yuchul started living together. They all prepare to welcome Min Kyu's return from military service, which was delayed due to his illness, and this series ends by showing Jia welcoming Min Kyu's arrival. The moral that can be learned from this movie is that honesty is important in a relationship.